Hey patrons, thought I'd do a quick video for you guys talking about the fiber line we just recently got installed and just kind of give you a rundown on the drama that has taken place to get this thing going. So when we first moved out here, we were blessed enough to get DSL. I mean, it was the bottom of the barrel DSL, the slowest DSL you could get. I think, our speeds, varied anywhere from 3 to 2 download speed, 3 to 2 megabytes download speed, and like a 0.3 or a 0.2 upload speed. So it was, when I wanted to upload a video for you guys, I basically had to set it at night, go to bed, and by morning it was hopefully done. And so it just took a long time, and it's hard on my solar because the solar has to keep, the batteries have to keep, you have to work harder so that it's being used at night when the sun's not out, and it takes a long time. And so I was limited in the amount of videos I could do and upload at any given time. I could upload maybe one a day. What I would normally do is have a Chrome browser open and a Firefox browser open, and I would upload to my other channel on Firefox and upload to American Homestead on Chrome. And I could probably do 2 uploads a night if I set them both at the same time. Usually they finished before morning, depending on how long they were. So when we first moved in here, I noticed that there's a fiber, they're called matchsticks. That's what they call them, matchsticks. And it basically, it's a pole that tells you that there's a fiber line that runs, where that pole is. And so you'd see them up and down the road, every so often when you're driving down the road, you'd see a matchstick and it said fiber line on it, fiber optics. And so I called the phone company and I said, hey, you got fiber out here. When can I get hooked up to that? And they said, well, it'll be 10 years. That's when we first moved out here. They told me it'd be 10 years before I could hook into that fiber line. Well, that was 5 years ago. And today, look at that, I got fiber. So about a year ago, 6 months or so, I noticed that my neighbor, she has a medical condition. She moved into my neighbor's place, and she has a need for high-speed internet because of her medical situation. I'm not sure all what's entailed with that, but she moaned and complained and went to the media and said that she needed to get her fiber because that's what she paid for in town before she moved out here. And so they reluctantly, the phone company reluctantly, because of all the media pressure and everything, came out and hooked her up because she just basically made a bunch of noise. Well, I'm like, well, she can make noise, I can make noise, right? So what I decided to do is make a bunch of noise, and because I knew that fiber line was active now. See, I didn't before, I just thought it was a line there, it wasn't active, nobody was using it, and so, I can't use it until they turn it on. Because they told me it wasn't going to be turned on for 10 years. Well, once I knew she had it, and they came out and hooked her up, first thing I told the workers, I said, listen, I told the 2 workers that were out there hooking her up, I said, the day you come out and hook me up, I'll have a case of beer for each of you. I was hoping that might, get them to go back to the office and get them to put in an order for me. Well, that didn't happen. So I began sending emails, trying to talk to whoever I could at the company. I stopped in at the office. Tim stopped in at the office. We tried everything we could, and they basically said, no. And they basically ignored us, for the first few months. Well, then I started to get more noisy. Have you ever heard of that term, a squeaky wheel gets the grease? That phrase, a squeaky wheel gets the grease. Well, I became a very squeaky wheel. And so, because I knew the fiber line was active, I wanted access to it. So, on top of going in and knocking on their door, which basically we gave them a runaround, oh yeah, someone will call you, it never did. I started, doing more digging on the internet, finding emails from people who work there, sending them emails. I sent an email. They had a contact form on their website. And every week or once or twice a week, I would send just a form letter that I had already written out. And I just said, hey, I want the fiber for this account. I want to get activated. And so I just kept pummeling their inbox, once or twice a week with that email. Eventually, they turned the contact form off for my IP address, so it didn't work anymore. And it worked for other IPs, at least the way I tested it. So, when I went to the form letter, their contact page, and sent them an email like I had been doing, eventually it just said error. And so they had turned it off for me. And when I tried to do it through an anonymizer, through a different browser, it worked. So they had blocked my IP because they were sick of getting my emails. And so I said, okay, well, I'll take it up a notch. So I started locating employees, their personal email addresses, their company email addresses. I found the main email address for the company, not just using the contact form. I started sending them emails. And those mostly went unresponded to. Finally, what I did is I wrote a letter to the editor of our local paper and said, hey, listen, because this town is always complaining about how they can't get business to move into this town. Number one, the sales tax is way too high here. It's like 10.5% sales tax. And so if you're a business, you'd rather open up a business in a place where it had cheaper sales tax so you can, you don't have to, pay as much taxes, for the products that you sell. And so they're always wondering why we can't get business here, why we can't get business here. And so I emailed the editor of the newspaper and I said, hey, I'm a business. I have a couple businesses I'm trying to operate out of my home here. And I can't get Madison County Phone Company to hook me up with the fiber line that I know is active running by my road, running right past my driveway. I said, this phone company needs to be pressured to get fiber. And because of some obscure law in our state, you are allowed to have a monopoly in certain areas. And the phone company has a monopoly. Years ago, I was told that AT&T tried to come into this area and bring internet to this area, and it was squashed because of an old obscure law that allowed a monopoly to continue to operate as long as they met certain requirements by the law or whatever it was. And so basically the phone company was doing the bare minimum to get by and maintain its monopoly. Well, in my letter to the editor, I said, hey, listen, I know you have a monopoly. I'm going to do whatever it takes in my power. It will be my mission in life to bring AT&T, or there's a couple other competitors locally in the Ozarks that operate outside of that monopoly area, to bring them in and to break up this monopoly and to get people access, because this is how business operates in the world we live in today. It operates on high-speed internet, and we need high-speed internet. And so that letter to the editor really stirred the fire. And then I found the owner's email address, and I started carbon copying him on the emails I was sending to get hooked up. And eventually I got a very angry call from a guy who actually doesn't work there anymore at the phone company. And he was telling me why I couldn't, why what I was saying wasn't true and blah, blah, blah. And I'm not going to get hooked up and there's no way I can get hooked up. And I'm like, dude, the fiber line is active. You can hook me up. You just don't want to. Here I am, a business. I said, I'm going to make life very hard for your company if I don't get this fiber. Anyway, it was a very, not a very nice phone call. And it didn't end very well. Well, the next day he sent me an email. It says, hey, I'd like to talk again. And I'm like, oh, what does he want? Well, I called him back, and he was all of a sudden a lot more open to getting me fiber, telling me it was going to be this amount of time. He had to order some equipment, and then he'd be able to free up a line on the fiber line to get me access. And so I don't know what happened. I don't know, if someone had to sit down with him to, allow me to, because I was going to make things. I don't know. I was willing to do whatever it took, whatever it took to get this fiber line installed, because I knew my business needed it for us to make money, for us to expand, for us to be able to do more for our subscribers and for our audience. And we were really at a way where I couldn't grow anymore unless I had this fiber line. So I was willing to do whatever it took. And he had a change of attitude, it seemed like, in 24 hours, and came back and said he was going to get us hooked up. He was going to order the equipment needed and get it. I don't know if that was true or not. I don't understand how all that worked. I just know, there was an active fiber line. He said something about there being only 8 strands in that line, and 6 strands were used up by something else, and there was just no strands or whatever. And it doesn't sound right to me. I used to sell DSL. When I got out of the Army, I used to sell DSL. I was a salesman for a company that sold DSL and what's called DSLAMs, digital subscriber line access multiplexers. And so I know a little bit how this stuff works. And then what he was telling me didn't sound right. I don't really know. All I know is that I needed the fiber. And I was willing to do whatever it took, pay whatever it took to get that fiber so that I could expand the business and be able to do more for the subscribers and the audience who tune into both my channels. So that's kind of where we're at. And then eventually, he said it's going to be around December timeframe, before the end of the year, maybe November, December. And here we are. It was at the end of December. It was right before or right after Christmas, they showed up December 26th, and they installed the line. And so this is the fiber node. This is a battery backup. This box down here is the old telephone line. And now we have really fast speed internet. I ordered 100 megs up and down. I'm not really getting that. I'm getting, you know, about a quarter of that. So I may have to figure out, I mean, this is night and day difference. So it's going to allow me to do everything I need to do. We'll just have to wait and see. Maybe I'll have to call them back up and say, hey, I need to get the speeds that I'm paying for. But again, I have no complaints right now. Right now, it's night and day difference. And I can do almost everything I need to do with the speed that I have. So anyway, I wanted to give you guys just a rundown on the drama that took place. You know, again, squeaky wheel gets the grease. If you're in an area, fiber is going everywhere. There's all kinds of new technologies. We had a video that came out a couple years ago talking about the 4 ways of getting internet. If you have a cell tower within about 5 or 6 miles of your house, there are ways to run, put up a little tiny antenna on your roof and tap into that cell tower and pay a monthly fee to a number of services providers that will sell that to you. You can tap directly into that cell tower. There's lots of different ways, lots of technology. But where we are, there's no cell towers. There's nothing. People out here have satellite and that's it. And they are installing the infrastructure, those fiber lines, to bring this stuff eventually out to the country. But, you know, they told me it was going to be years away, and that just wasn't good enough. You know, I needed to make it happen. So if you rock the boat enough, people will eventually get you to stop rocking some way. And if maybe where you're at, look at the options and get on these companies to because right now there's a lot of political pressure to get rural America hooked up to internet, because they know with increased access to education and increased access to information, people are better off for it. So anyway, that's kind of the rundown on how we got our fiber line, and you guys are going to see all the benefit for that. So all right, guys, see you next time on the homestead. Bye.